Caitlin Reardon is live in Reading with more.
That's right, guys. County officials here in Berks say that they agree with the Wolf administration's order for everyone to wear the masks in public when they can't social distance, but they say they just simply can't enforce it. Berks County Commissioner Christian Leinbach says he understands where Governor Tom Wolf's administration is coming from with the expanded mask order, which requires people to wear masks not only in businesses, but also outside when they can't social distance. With COVID-19 cases on the rise in 40 states, Leinbach says it's common sense, but making sure people follow the order is a different story.
The challenge is enforcement. And the reality is the county has no authority to enforce.
Leinbach says at an event Wednesday, the governor made reference to Philadelphia and Allegheny counties making the decision to close bars or not allow indoor restaurant service. But Leinbach says the structure of those two counties is different than most of the counties in the Commonwealth.
It's understanding the real authority of a county, and unfortunately, we have very limited authority, even though people think we can do more than we really are able.
Governor Rachel Levine updated November 18th, 2020, that no business, a business or school entity should not enforce face coverings requirements when it is unsafe to do so. It's unsafe to do so when you know that the laws are being violated and your First Amendment right. It becomes unsafe to do so because now you're going to start restraining people unlawfully and assault. And when you're wearing a face covering, you're concealing your identity because that's an actual law. Unlike the mask rule, it's a rule, it's not a law. You can't use force or physically remove customers who refuse to comply with this order when it would not otherwise be legal to do so. It's not legal to do so when you're trying to force it on someone. But when you refuse to comply with this order, then it's your free will. They shall not violate other laws, including state and federal anti-discrimination laws.
No, I don't. It's against my religion, no.
December 17, 2020. This is my
No, I
channel.
don't wear one. It's against my religion. Do you have a manager
It's
on
December
site that
20th,
can talk to you about
2020.
that? If he has an issue with it? If you don't have a manager here?
That's the person I don't know who you are.
Not only are the managers there, but the owner's there as well.
No, I don't wear a mask.
Alright, the store's policy, if you come in here, you must wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, we offer alternative means of shopping. But you can't be in here with it.
I have fair and equal right to that establishment just as much as anybody else because of my irrevocable license that's offered to the public. When you sell goods at whether it's private or public establishment, it's still open to the public. What is the constitutional right to refuse service? According to the Federal Civil Rights Act 1964, no business serving the public, even if it's privately owned, can discriminate because of a customer's religious beliefs. The CDC recommends wearing a cloth face covering as a measure to contain the wearer's respiratory droplets and help protect others. Employees should not wear a face covering if they have trouble breathing, or simply you cannot tolerate wearing it or can't remove it with help. If you can't tolerate wearing a mask, you don't need any excuse from a doctor to prove that you can't tolerate wearing it. So even as of December 2nd, 2020, the CDC does not yet have evidence on effectiveness of different types of cloth materials. Wearing cloth masks can help prevent people infected with the virus that causes COVID-19 from spreading the virus. So they have no evidence And so when they try to say that you're a threat, like you're a danger, well then they're acting as if they're some kind of physician and they've already diagnosed you with what your problem is and you need to leave because you don't have a face covering over your face. That's why they'll say criminal trespass involves entering the owner's land and accessing the owner's property without permission. Criminal trespass involves entering or remaining in a place knowing one is there without a license or privilege. An irrevocable license is what we have, and that cannot be terminated for convenience. Especially when the type of business that Shoprite is located as public. Here's a legal notice from the healthyamerican.org, Peggy Hall. This private business has a legal classification as public accommodation, according to the federal law. Thus, according to law, this private business is open to the public, and I am the public. And thus I have the legal right to be in this business absent a court-issued order of quarantine, isolation, or restraining order. Illegal restraint is when they keep you from moving forward. You have no evidence that I am a direct threat because CDC doesn't even have evidence of that themselves to the health and safety of others. Absent a court order or quarantine or isolation, there is no evidence that I am a threat. In the United States, you are innocent until proven guilty. But obviously, you're guilty and they'll throw you in jail, and then you got to prove your innocence. In this conspiracy, chapter 8, section 185, it shall be unlawful for any person to wear any mask, false whiskers, or any personal disguise, whether complete or partial, for the purpose of either 1, evading or escaping discovery, recognition, or identification in the commission of any public offense, to conceal, flight, or escape when charged with, arrested for, or convicted of any public offense. Any person violating any of the provisions of this section shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor. Obviously, laws are different everywhere, but I'm giving an example of committing a crime wearing a mask is now an aggravated felony. In the past, a crime was considered a misdemeanor, can now be considered and charged as an aggravated felony. This is thanks to a new established Arizona law that states that wearing a mask is now considered an aggravated factor. We're in the United States. Laws, they all follow together. When one state starts it, another state starts it. If you wear a mask or some other disguise while you are committing a crime, it will automatically upgrade the offense that you are charged with to an aggravated felony. So I'll just go to Pennsylvania, seal of the city of Erie. Definitions. Used in this article, public places means all walks, alleys, streets, boulevards, avenues, lanes, roads, highways, and other ways, or throughout fairs dedicated to public, used or owned or maintained by public authority, and all grounds and buildings owned, leased, or operated for the use of organizations enjoying all tax-exempt privileges as charitable use. Conduct prohibited. No person shall, while wearing any hood which conceals the identity by hiding the face, a mask, or other device whereby a substantial portion of the face is hidden or covered, so as to conceal the identity of the wearer, enter, be, or appear in any public place within the city of Erie, if such person is engaged in conduct prohibited by criminal or civil rights law. No person shall, while wearing any hood which conceals the identity by hiding the face, a mask, or device whereby a substantial portion of the face is hidden or covered, so to conceal the identity of the wearer, demand entrance or admission, enter or come upon or into, or be upon or in the premise, enclosure, or house of any other person, unless he shall have first obtained the written permission of the owner and the occupant of such property, if such person is engaged in conduct prohibited by a criminal or civil rights act. You have an irrevocable license to go into any grocery store, as they're still open. At least as they're still open, this is still your rights that you can fight for. So constitutional rights, when you violate them, no portion of this article shall be construed to as violate the constitutional rights of any person under the constitutions of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania or the United States of America. Exemptions. It is specifically declared that in that city, Erie does not intend to criminalize the concealment of the identity alone apart from the other criminality or actual. See, this is back in 2018. So you can't do any of this as long as the person is not engaging in criminal acts or violating the civil rights of others while concealing identity. Any person wearing a traditional holiday costume in season, a person using a mask in theatrical productions, including uses, celebrations of masquerade balls. So it doesn't apply to that. A person lawfully engaging in trades or employment, lawfully engaging in trades or employment or in sporting activities where a face or facial covering is worn for the purpose of ensuring the physical safety of the wearer. So they'll say, well, this is ensuring your physical safety according to the CDC guidelines, which has no proof. Or because of the nature of the occupation, trade, or profession, or sporting activities. A person wearing a gas mask or drills exercise in emergencies. A person wearing a mask or wearing apparel in season as personal protection against cold weather. It's different when you walk into a store. You should be taking your mask off because it's against the law. Any person wearing a mask because of an illness, allergy, or the advice of his or her physician. Well, so we have the advice of the CDC guidelines. Any person expressing a religious belief or observance or engaging in any other expressive conduct or preservation of anonymity protected by the Constitution of the United States, Pennsylvania. The House Bill, General Assembly of Pennsylvania, Assembly, House Bill number 802. So there's two parties that make up the law, and it has to be passed, and then it creates the General Assembly. Amending Title 18, Crimes and Offenses of Pennsylvania, Consolidated Statutes, further defining the offense of the ethic, intimidation to include sexual orientation, and changing the designation and grading of the offense, and providing for the offense of wearing certain masks, hoods, and other devices. The General Assembly of Commonwealth of Pennsylvania hereby enacts as following. Section 1, Section 2710 of Title 18 of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes is amended to read, ethic, intimidation, and other bias-related offenses. Offenses defined. A person commits the offense of ethic, intimidation, and an offense under this section if, with malicious intent toward the actual perceived race, color, religion, or national origin or sex orientation of another individual or group of individuals, he commits an offense under any other provision of this article or under Chapter 33 related to arson, criminal mischief, and other property destruction exclusive of Section 3307 relating to institutional vandalism, or under section related to criminal trespass, or under Section 5504 relating to harassment by communication or address with respect to such individual or his or her property, or with respect to one or more members of such group to their property. Grading B. An offense under this section shall be classified as a misdemeanor or the third degree if the other offense is classified as a summary offense. An offense under this section shall be classified as a misdemeanor, the second degree, if a person disguises himself by mask or other device by which a portion of the face is so hidden, concealed, or covered as to conceal the identity of the wearing during the commission of the offense.
Without a mask.
But
That's our store policy.
No, I understand that, but it's against my religion to wear
Okay,
it.
that's fine. Then you can do alternate methods of shopping.
I'm not doing all of it.
Okay, then I would have to ask you to leave.
You can ask me to leave, but I don't have to leave.
Yeah, if you're not going to willing to abide by our store.
Now, when I looked on your website, this store here, the customers, they're not, you can't, your own manager says you cannot force anybody to wear the mask.
No.
Put it there. You
No,
cannot.
because I don't know what that is. No, you come in here, you wear a mask. You don't want to wear a mask, you can leave.
Warminster Township.
Holly, can you come over here?
Warminster Township.
It's store policy.
Yeah,
No
it's a
matter
store.
where we.
But it also
Ethic,
says that
It's our
intimidation.
policy, yeah, wrong.
they aren't required to wear the equipment, but are encouraged to do so.
No.
This is your website right here.
I don't know.
Well, it's on ABC 6. They did a news special about Shoprite.
What website that is. If you're in here shopping, you wear a mask. Or you can use one of our alternative methods of shopping.
It's against my religion.
That's fine.
My First Amendment right.
And that's not a religion, your First Amendment right.
Oh, it
it's my
is.
First Amendment right to tell you that my store policy is what you have to
It's
abide by.
it's a religion to believe that you have to wear it.
So here comes the aggravated intimidation.
I would appreciate it if you respect our policy. Whatever religion you have, I respect that.
Yeah.
But we already have we have a policy, and by enforcing our policy, we're keeping everybody safe, from our employees and customers.
That's according to the CDC guidelines that you think. It's your belief that that's true.
Correct.
There you go.
And that's
by
my
the
policy.
Right, so that's his religious belief, but at the same time, he has a religious belief and I have a religious belief. I have ethics and morals that are upright and they're sinless. So when you go into a store and it's a matter of religious beliefs, when you're violating the federal laws, then that trumps the other person's religious belief.
See, and I have the right to.
Are you the manager?
Yes, on the store job.
Okay. On this, I just tried to show him, but on your.
So it is on the internet. It's Corey Davis is the one that interviewed him from ABC 6 News in Philadelphia. Extra precautions. Employees at the Shoprite in Warminster, PA are now wearing face shields, masks, and gloves. They aren't required to wear the equipment, which is plural, not just the face shield, but they're not required to wear the face shield or the mask or the gloves. That's the equipment. They aren't required to wear equipment, but are encouraged to do so.
All right. It says that the ramping up the health safe measures of employees during the COVID outbreak, they aren't required to wear the equipment, but are encouraged to do so.
No, we are required. I don't know what that.
So they are required, but he said no. No. Well, it says they aren't required to wear, but are encouraged to do so. And that's from the owner's actual words. You can't force anybody to wear these. These what? We encourage it real strongly, really strongly. Plus the face masks we're wearing as well, said store owner Joe Cowhey.
Hey, yo, buddy.
How are you, mister?
Hey, yo.
How are you, Mr. Cowhey?
Please call the cops, I need you to.
No, I don't. We are required. Everyone comes in this building required to wear a mask.
All I can tell you is I refuse to wear a mask, I'm not wearing one.
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
You can ask me to leave, but you can't make me leave.
I will. We're gonna call the cops. You will have to leave.
Please call the cops, I need you to.
So there's the intimidation
I'll wait right here peacefully.
with his face concealed,
Can you wait out there?
Wait out where?
In the lobby.
trying to restrict my movement forward.
No, I'm waiting right here in the store. You can't restrict my movement.
Yes, I can. I can switch. I have the.
He said, yes, I can restrict your movement forward.
If you want to be charged with unlawful restraint,
That's fine. Just call the cops.
Apparently he doesn't mind being charged with it.
no, the
This
cops.
is my policy, and I enforce my policy.
I understand you're good.
Everybody has their right to enforce policies until it violates the federal laws.
Then you will have to leave. I will ask you to leave.
You're going to have to leave. I'm going to ask you to leave. I still was never asked kindly, can you leave the store?
I'm respectfully asking you to leave.
I respectfully respect you to leave, asking you to leave. In order to be asked to leave, they would just have to say 3 words. Can you leave? Or will you leave the store? Because even if they ask, can you leave? Well, yeah, I can. I can leave, but my freedom is being infringed upon. The freedom to move forward. So I can leave, but the best way to ask for anybody to leave, because words just need to be interpreted correctly. That's what the Supreme Court's for. They will take my evidence and it will be interpreted exactly the way that I'm showing you that it's interpreted. Just to prevent it from getting to that point, well, Shoprite needs to open up their doors and make sure that all their employees have an option to wear the mask or not. It needs to be very clear to all the employees and the people coming into the store. So the signs need to change. The signs need to change from, so these are typical signs. Face mask required. All employees and visitors must wear a face mask or a protective face covering. So every person that comes in the store needs to know that this is an option. So the signs need to have a big old option sign. Instead of notice, it should say option. And it should say something more like, please wear a face mask. But you definitely need to know that this is optional and nobody can force you against your will. Mask required to enter per state order. Makes it sound like it's a law, just especially when it says state law requires you must wear a mask. That's like the most intimidating one of all, because it says the word law and the state. So it feels like the state actually made a law that you have to do this thing. But a requirement is a need, have need of, needed, necessary. It's vital, it's essential. It's obligatory, mandatory, prescribed, chosen, selected, desired. It's a desire that the CDC guidelines, they are, your mask offers you some protection. Who should or should not wear a mask? Who should wear a mask? Anybody that feels as though they should. And the proper interpretation that'll be taken to the Supreme Court is, who should not wear a mask? Anybody who feels that they should not wear one is exactly what the law is. Anyone who has trouble breathing, anyone who basically just cannot tolerate a mask. Anybody who doesn't want to wear a mask because they can't tolerate it, whether it's mental, physical, or like your stomach can't tolerate the fact that you have to wear one when you know you don't, that's your protection. The civil rights, they're being broken, but they'll be upheld. All employees and visitors must wear a mask. Must ought to, should, have to, have got to, need to, be obligated to, be required to, be compelled to, be under an obligation to. What's your obligation to have to wear, that you must wear this mask? Well, because they're requiring that you should. Okay, well, when they require it, it's no different than saying you have the need of something that you must wear, that you need to put on, that's desired, obligatory, mandatory, statutory, selected, chosen, correct, proper, right. These are recommended. It's a recommendation. CDC guidelines. Recommended. Not recommended. One side is force, the other side is non-force. These are CDC guidelines, considerations. When you're considering something, it's a thought that you're pondering, review, it's a discussion, attention, reflection, contemplation, regard, notice. It's an examination of a thought that you ponder as you meditate about it. This is about the truest mask that I can read. Wear your mask so our business stays open. Because if you're not wearing a mask in these businesses, then they're not going to be able to stay open, because everybody's complying with this order that's been proven to be violated. So you must wear a mask. When you must wear a mask, it's something that you ought to do. It's something that you should do. You should do it according to the word should, used to indicate obligation, duty, or correctness, typically when criticizing someone's action, indicates a desirable or expected state. They do expect you to do it. Used to give or ask advice, really, or a suggestion. Used to give advice. So when you must do something, you ought to do it, you should do it. It's advice, it's a recommendation, it's a mandate. A mandate is an instruction, directive, direction, a command, an order. Even a CDC recommendations is advice, it's counsel, it's guidance, it's direction. It's not a law passed. So when people are concealing their identity in the stores, restricting people's freedom of movement and discriminating against them because of their religious beliefs, because of their own morals and ethics, that creates their religious belief, has nothing to do with the denomination of if you're a Catholic or a Christian or a Muslim, doesn't matter. This is about justice.
I'm not leaving. I'm going to talk to the council and get it.
It's fine. We'll carry you out there.
I will carry you out. This is a direct threat from this man right here with his identity concealed. There's no law that says that you have to put a mask on in a store. So when they're confronting you and they're threatening to carry you out, it becomes aggravated. Whatever the charge is, it aggravates the charge. So this is intimidation. I'm supposed to feel intimidated. I get the attempt where it's supposed to make you feel intimidated. And on top of that, when the cops are called, you're supposed to feel even more intimidated. Because even the cop wanted me to leave the store, but he never asked me to leave. Nobody ever asked me to leave the store. They kept saying they're gonna have to ask me, but when you say I'm gonna have to apologize to that person for whatever, well, you have to actually apologize and say I am sorry, the reason behind it. That's a true apology. Same thing as when you're trying to escort someone out of the store. If you ask them kindly, like, sir, can you please leave the store? Then you've asked. that was a direct, you are directly asking and then you get a response. But I was intimidated. I mean, the intimidation factor, I felt the intimidation factor that came off of everybody who wasn't allowing me to exercise my First Amendment right. I was trying to express, because I have the freedom to express my religious beliefs in public or private, especially in a public establishment. Even if they're owned privately, they still are considered a public establishment because it's public accommodations. And everybody that is able to walk into these stores, all these customers, they all have irrevocable licenses to be in the stores. But when they don't know that, then the store managers are going to threaten you also with trespassing, and then the cop was getting ready to lock me up at the very end for trespassing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
You can ask me to leave, but you can't make me leave.
I will, but I'll call the cops.
Please call the cops. I need you to. I'll wait right here.
So there's the force forcing me out.
Peacefully.
Can you wait out there?
Wait out where?
He's trying to restrict my movement.
In the lobby.
No, I'm waiting right here in the store. You can't.
You also can't falsely imprison someone by creating creating restrictions as to where you can and cannot stand.
You can't restrict my movement.
I can restrict. I have the
If you
So he just admitted that he can restrict my movement.
If you want to be charged with unlawful restraint,
That's fine. Call the cops.
no, the
This
cops
is my policy, and I enforce my policy.
See, I didn't have to call the cops because he already did it for me.
So you can
And
enforce
you
it.
have to leave. I'll ask you to leave.
So you're going to have to leave. That again, it's force. You're going to have to leave. I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
I'm respectfully asking you to leave right now.
I'm not leaving.
I'm respectfully asking you to leave right now. I don't feel respected. I feel disrespected.
I'm going to talk to the cops when they get
It's
here.
fine. And we'll carry you out to the car.
And I will carry you out to the car. Interesting.
Huh?
That's why I asked him, huh? Because I heard something like I will carry you out, and I wanted him to repeat it.
Talk to the cops when they get
It's
here.
fine. And we'll carry you out to the car.
Huh?
Here I'm going
It
to
is
read
illegal
him.
for you or
what
any
he's-
other employee to block someone's entry to establishment.
I'm reading him what he's doing, the law that he's breaking, and then he's telling him to ask Joe. So Joe is there.
Joe could call the sheriff. Ask Joe could call the.
So here's Joe. There's Joe.